This is Shamrock Sports.
The month of January ends and another episode of Shamrock Sports begins. Both the men's and women's basketball teams doing battle this coming Saturday, coming off losses. We'll talk the women's game, a top 15 clash at UConn, and men's basketball renewing the holy war against Boston College. Plus, Trey Cotey and Jimmy Collins will join us to give their shambookie picks as we return to talk some college basketball around the nation. It's all coming up next right here on Shamrock Sports. And welcome inside the Duncan Student Center for another episode of Shamrock Sports. My name's Tyler Reidy, along with Trey Cotey and Jimmy Collins. Jimmy, a big weekend for you. Your Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship. Trey, maybe not so much as a Packers fan, but we're going to have some fun today regardless.
Next year's our year. Always.
Well, let's get right into it here. Last night, Notre Dame women's basketball in a top 25 clash with the Syracuse Orange. Notre Dame trying to extend an ACC winning streak. 15 against 22 in the rankings. Syracuse coming in trying to win in South Bend for the first time in program history. And we'll pick it up toward the end of the first quarter. Maddie Westbeld running into some traffic and up and over her head for two. Irish out in front. But then the Syracuse leading scorer, Deasia Fair, misses a free throw, gets it right back on the second chance, buries the tray. Q's in front. Hidalgo would cut the deficit down to one. 16-15 would be the score at the end of the first. But then Elena Rice got hot for the end of the first half. There's a three. Then she takes it herself for two. 7 consecutive points for Rice. Syracuse extends the lead to 5. But then Sonia Citron cuts into it with a high arcing three from the left side. Fair, however, will answer her in a DeWolf interface. Just one step back, and she'll knock it down. Syracuse up 6 at the break. Here's Fair again. She scored a game-high 25 points, knocks down another triple. But then here come the Irish with grand theft Hidalgo. Hannah Hidalgo, the steal and the score mid-court all the way home. Team high 23 points for her, but Hidalgo taketh and she giveth away. Syracuse with Sophie Burrows picks up the steal at mid-court and ties the game back up. And then Deasia Fair would give the Qs a lead they would not relinquish with a 2 and then a 3 from up top to make it a 5-point Orange advantage. And then this is what burned Notre Dame all night long last night. Second chance Syracuse opportunity. Kyra Wood finishes this one off. Irish outscored 23-4 in the second chance game. Georgia Woolley, who had 6 of the offensive boards, finishes the job with a 3, and Syracuse wins it 79-65, dropping the Irish to 14-4 overall, 5-3 in the ACC. So not a lot went right last night for Notre Dame. A lot went on. Start with you, Jimmy. What did you see from Notre Dame in that 14-point loss?
Obviously, Notre Dame's done pass under Neil. They've been hold down the paint, and they have good guard play to win them basketball games. But last night they struggled down the stretch. They were turning the ball over, which created more opportunities for Syracuse. Syracuse outscored Notre Dame 23-4 on second chance points, which is absolutely killer. And then just inside in general, down in the paint, Notre Dame gives up 40 points in the paint to their 24, which is just not a recipe for success.
Take a look at the game summary there, those second chance points, those points in the paint, but those don't tell the full story. Notre Dame as a whole offense looked a little bit out of sync, Trey.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's talking about the defense. The offense wasn't doing much better last night. In fact, I'd say it was doing even worse. And really the only quarter where we looked like ourselves was in that third quarter where we started down pretty significantly at the start of the second half and really made a push to come back and tie the game up at the start of the third quarter, or start of the fourth quarter. But after that, everything went downhill. At the beginning of that quarter, it seemed like there were 3 or 4 possessions in a row where we just couldn't really get into our rhythm and turn the ball over. We got outscored 28-14 in that fourth quarter, really just not getting the job done. For a team that typically averages 84 points per game and we only put up 65, not a single player on the team managed to outscore their season average. Hidalgo had 23, Citron only had 14, and really the Irish just didn't get it done on offense last night.
And now it doesn't get any easier for Neil Ivey and company. You come off the 14-point loss to one ranked opponent, now you go on the road to another. Tomorrow night, Saturday, at 8th ranked UConn, and a renewal of a great rivalry. Notre Dame and Connecticut up in stores, and Notre Dame also goes from trying to contain one superstar in D'Asia Fair to another in Paige Beckers, coming off a torn ACL, having a great season. Trey, how do they shut her down?
Well, D'Asia Fair was really spectacular last night. She had 25 and was hitting some really impressive step-back threes late in the game. Paige Beckers is a similar player. She's a little taller, but she still shoots the ball at a very impressive clip. She's averaging over 20 a game, just like D'Asia Fair. And if she can get loose on us and maybe even start attacking the lane and making some assists and plays down low, it's going to be really, really tough for this Irish defense to contest and compete if we play like we did last night.
And Jimmy, just factoring everything out with this talented UConn team, you look at Notre Dame as a team itself. Irish straighten out and really lean on to get the job done at UConn.
Yeah, luckily for Notre Dame, this UConn team ran by Paige Beckers, guard heavy. They can score the ball very well, but they're not great down low as most teams in the country, which is going to help Notre Dame hopefully bounce back after last night, getting dominated down in the paint. Like I said, 40 to 24 in points in the paint. So hold the paint, then they can focus on Paige Beckers and company and hopefully get a win.
Saw those clips of Paige Beckers, over 20 points a game for her. She'll be active, as will Hannah Hidalgo. Big clash coming up tomorrow night, Notre Dame and UConn. Both the men's and women's basketball teams are in action this weekend. Hockey has a bye week. Let's go to Kean Bagenstos to catch us up on the ice.
Notre Dame becoming an ice rink isn't the only reason for an increased sense of urgency around campus. As Notre Dame becomes more and more frozen in the battle for the Frozen Four years, and Jeff Jackson and his hockey squad are right now looking outside of this coliseum that is the NCAA tournament. So far, number 20 ranked Notre Dame hockey has been mediocre with a 13-11-2 record, which is slightly above 500. In the Big Ten, they have a 7-7-2 record that is exactly 500. Notre Dame has been a dominant force at home with 11-6 record in Compton thanks to you students, but has struggled mightily on the road with a 2-5-2 record. Some key wins have been 4-1 win over number 1 Boston University, 4-2 win over number 9 Minnesota, 6-1 win over number 14 Michigan, 4-1 and 6-3 wins to sweep Penn State, who's just out of the top 20, 3-1 this year against Ohio State. Key losses: lost to Clarkson in the first game, 3-0 loss against number 19 RIT, 8-2 loss against Boston U, shootout loss to Penn State, 4-1 loss in Minnesota, 6-1 loss against number 2 Boston College, swept by number 8 Michigan State, swept by number 3 Wisconsin. In terms of analytics, ND's offense has been humming with about 3 goals per game, 34 shots a game, and a 19.1% power play percentage. However, ND has had defensive struggles as they have also allowed 34 shots a game and about 2.6 goals per game. Notre Dame has also been no stranger to the penalty box as they have averaged 4.5 penalties a game. This means that Notre Dame has had major defensive concerns, which are fine in games against decent teams or subpar teams where Bishop can shut them out. But against elite teams like Boston U, where there is no margin for error. Some players who have stood out thus far: Captain Landon Slaggard, 16 goals, 9 assists, 25 points, 4 power play goals in 26 games played. Then defenseman Ryan Sidem, who has been tremendous on the offensive and defensive side of the puck, with 14 assists and 46 blocks. And then the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Bischel, .928 save percentage, 2.41 goals against average, 3 shutouts. Then Danny Nelson, 7 goals, 19 points, 22 games played, and 2 power play goals. Fifth, ND's tournament chances according to playoffstats.com. Notre Dame has a 16% chance at getting in, so the odds definitely are not in their favor, but Notre Dame still has a very decent chance of getting in. Remember, 16 teams make the tournament, so number 20 ND is not all far from the top 16 in the dance. ND is ahead of teams like OSU, Penn State, and Augustana, who are also on the outside looking in. ND has easily handled these teams and has a 2-game series advantage over all 3 of these teams. This is why winning against the middle-of-pack teams or French tournament contenders is crucial. Unfortunately, RIT and Clarkson are also trailing Notre Dame, both teams who the Irish have lost to. So, reasons for optimism and anxiety. After a bye this week, the push is on, and it will not be an easy push. First up at day number 8 MSU at home, then number 3 Wisconsin on the road, number 9 Minnesota, and then number 14 Michigan. When Michigan is the easiest team to go up against, you know you're in for a doozy. Michigan will be particularly huge because since Michigan and Indy are so close in the rankings, the two will likely be fighting for tournament spots against each other on Selection Day. Overall, it has been a season of many ups and downs for the Irish. However, this crazy roller coaster has a chance at making it home. The Irish do not have a great chance at making the tournaments, but definitely a manageable one given their success against French tournament teams in and outside their conference. During this final stretch, though, playing 4 straight series against top 15 opponents will be brutal. To succeed and make it to their promised land, Andy will have to have Sedem lead a defensive play for more physical back check and do a better job of managing the pace so that Bishop will not keep getting pestered. With the offensive production of Slager and Nelson and the rest of the crew, if the defense can moderately fix their end, the Irish will have a real chance to make some huge noise in the next couple of weeks. With that, that's all for the Irish hockey right now. Back to you guys in the studio.
Well, thank you, Kian. Should be another compelling stretch run for Notre Dame hockey. But in the meantime, let's go across the parking lot from Compton to Purcell Pavilion, where on Wednesday night, Notre Dame men's basketball hosted Miami in the Irish Wear Green game. Pick it up midway through the first quarter. Tate Davis flying through the air with the slam as it was a close one to start. Marcus Burton, back-to-back threes. He scored a Notre Dame high 15 points, and he's got the Irish within a couple with 7 to play in the first. Great stuff from the freshman. But then Norchad Omier took over. You're going to see 3 consecutive dunks right here. He starts by posterizing Kebajai. Then he takes it with a steal, and on the run out, throws it down with the right hand, and then finally a lob from Keyshawn George, and Omier is feeling it on the inside. Canes leading at halftime. But then Julian Roper takes it away from him, goes coast to coast all the way down the lane, and puts it in for 2. Then Braden Shrewsberry drilling the tray right in front of Pops. Irish within 1, but here comes Omier again. Career high, Miami career high, 33 points, double-double for him. But then Marcus Burton with the Irish down 4. Does his usual thing, late in games, coming alive. Back-to-back drives to the rack, and this game is tied at 49 midway through the second half. Then J.R. Konechny will pull a 3, and the Irish go out in front, 52-49. But then Wooga Poplar up top with a hand in his face, buries the trifecta. And one more 3 from Keyshawn George would help the Hurricanes pull away 61-54. And your final score would be Miami 73, Notre Dame 61. Irish on the men's court fall to 7-12 overall and 2-6 in the ACC. So a lot to work on for Notre Dame as you take a look at the game summary. Hurricanes far more efficient. Trey, what did you see in this one from the Irish and Hurricanes?
Well, I want to start with this. I'm optimistic about the future of this team because this is a Miami team. They made the Final Four last year. They were projected to be top 2 or 3 in ACC play, and they've struggled a little bit so far. But for the most part, they're still a very solid team with a lot of returning guys. We played physical. We stayed in the game for most of it. And it's kind of the same old story with this team every time, though. And that's okay. We're young. We're going to figure it out. But right now, we just can't figure out how to close games. When we had those back-to-back blocks and hit that 3 around 8-minute mark to take the lead, the atmosphere was electric in Purcell. And that's really, really good to see. But then, same old story. They get a few buckets. We get a few turnovers. And just like that, it's a 8, 9, 10-point game. And then we can just never really close the gap. I like where this team's at. But one thing that I will mention is defensive struggles, specifically hedging screens. And if you look out here today, this is an NDTV first, I do believe. We have a basketball court in studio. Thank you to Jake Irons and Avery White for setting this up for us. We got the mini hoop, the ball, little painted area, and we're going to do a little demo here for the first time. You guys ready for this?
All right, take us to school.
Okay, let's go. So right now, the way that the Irish are defending screens is we're kind of getting caught in no man's land. And we're not hedging. We're either staying or just backing away, and it's not working. On one of those alley-oops, you'll see what I'm talking about in a few seconds. So let's get in position here. I'm going to be the point guard. This is going to be my center.
Let's go.
These guys are going to be on defense. So let's pretend that we're Miami. I'll be number 24. He'll be number 15, Omier, who had 33 points, right? So he's going to come and set a screen for me. This is how the Irish defend screens, right? I'm going to be coming around. And then he is going to stay in the lane, right? Their big guy, Ben Rohr, thank you, Ben, is going to be in the paint. And he's just going to kind of be there, which gives me all the room in the world to operate. My defender's going to be on my back. I can pull up a mid-range. I can go to the corner, hit a mid-range. Or I can drive, get him there, lay it off, get a big dunk, which Omer had about 100 of those yesterday.
Really.
Here's how we should be defending screens, and how every good team in the country defends them. Hedging. This is what we should be doing. It's the exact same setup, same teams. Let's give this a go. So I'm going to come around. Ben's going to come up on me all the way, force me to pick up my dribble, right? As soon as he gets back in position, he's going to fly back, and that's a waste of time. Reset the possession. That's about 5-10 seconds lost. Miami getting absolutely nowhere on the perimeter, and that's how we should be defending screens. Against a really good big guy like Omer and really good guard play like Nigel Pack, that's how we should be defending screens, to take that away and give us a better chance to close out these games down the stretch.
Coach Cotey taking us to school. How about that? We appreciate it. Hedging screens. Keep an eye on it as Notre Dame gets ready to host Boston College tomorrow at noon. Jimmy, let's talk about the way Notre Dame's been closing these games out. Maybe a little too one-dimensional with Marcus Burton. What do you want to see differently from Notre Dame down the stretch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we know, Notre Dame is not a very good scoring team. They're bottom 50 in the country in offensive efficiency, bottom 30 in the country in three-point shooting. And, I mean, it's tough. Like, young, they're trying to find their footing on offense. But towards the end of games, we've really relied heavily on Marcus Burton because he is our best scorer at the end of the day. But it's turned into super one-dimensional, kind of ISO ball, and he can't do it all. He's a freshman, so.
Exactly. You look ahead to this Boston College matchup, not just going to be a matter of trying to get things going for Notre Dame themselves offensively. There's a lot to contain, Trey Cotey. BC's coming in with a guy like Quentin Post, who dropped 29 points, 14 rebounds in South Bend last year. A couple other big scores and stars as well. Take us through this BC lineup.
Yeah, and this BC team is coming off back-to-back losses, so they're not in a great spot right now, but they do have more talent than we do. Mainly these three guys that you're seeing right now. Quentin Post averaging almost 17 and 8, shooting an incredible clip from the three-point line. Their transfer, Claudell Harris Jr., averaging 14, really good second option. He had 29 earlier this year. He can really put up buckets. And then a guy like Jaden Zachary, who in my mind is really Marcus Burton's kryptonite. He's a big, physical guard, plays really aggressive defense. He's only averaging about 11 and a half, but he had 20 against us last time, really taking over in that second half and making Burton pay for the size disadvantage there. He's also their #1 facilitator, and if we can contain Jaden Zachary, that gives us a chance, but if he can go off like he did last game and kind of have his way both offensively and defensively with Marcus Burton, it's going to be tough for us.
Last Saturday game of the month for Notre Dame. Jimmy, what are you looking forward to most about it here?
Yeah, I mean, building off of what Trey said, I do think that Boston College is a pretty good matchup for Notre Dame. We traveled out to Chestnut Hill, lost a close one, played pretty well. We out-rebounded them 44-28, which is huge for a team like this, giving us more opportunities to score. But this Boston College team is very good at keeping their hands on the ball. They're 15th in the country in turnovers, which is great. You don't want to have a team that turns the ball over a ton like Notre Dame. And my biggest key to the game is to dominate the glass, but you got to create some turnovers from BC because that's going to give you more opportunities to score, and we need as many opportunities as we can to score at this point if we want to win basketball games. But I do like the Irish here. I think they have a great chance to win.
Yeah, you saw those highlights from last year. Quentin Post, Nate Leshevsky went back to fourth at Purcell Pavilion. BC pulled it out here in South Bend, but Micah Shrewsberry and company going for a different result at noon tomorrow. Free donuts for all the students who show up, so hope to see you there inside Purcell Pavilion. But first, let's go to Alice O'Brien and Avery White for a segment on some breaking news involving the Burt Golf Course on the campus of Notre Dame.
What's up, Shamrock Sports? Happy second semester. I'm Alice O'Brien.
And I'm Avery White. Today we're here to give you the latest updates on the Burt Golf Course and the reconstruction process that will be taking place.
At the end of the 2023-2024 academic year, a pair of existing dorms, Fisher and Pangborn Hall, will be torn down to make way for two larger buildings. In the process, one of the university's two golf courses will shrink, and it won't be the first time.
At Notre Dame, residential life is an integral part of the undergraduate educational experience. Residence halls allow students to interact with an array of peers, learn from each other, build communities, and form lifelong friendships, said current Notre Dame president John Jenkins in a release. These new halls, with enhanced community space, will ensure that we are able to provide current and future students with an appropriate living environment in a place they call home.
The Burt Golf Course, which was originally built as an 18-hole course back in 1929, was shortened when Newt Rockne Memorial was built in 1939. Then became a 9-hole course in 1995 when a series of dorms were added to campus. Originally, plans were set for the Burke Golf Course to return to its original size once construction is complete. Now the University Golf Course will be shrinking once again. The new version of Burke will still have 9 holes, but will become a par 32 course.
During construction, the practice putting green located adjacent to the Rockney Memorial Gym and Pangbourne Hall will be demolished. A new practice green will be built near the new first tee of the course. The road project will be completed over the summer, and the course will then be reopened once the greenskeepers have determined that the realigned holes are ready for play.
That's all we have regarding the construction on the Burke Golf Course.
This has been Avery and Alice. Now back to you guys in the studio.
Hey, dogs. And we're back in the studio. Thanks, Alice and Avery. Big news with the restructuring of the dorms on the west side of campus. We'll see how it plays out. That golf course turning from par 36 to a par 32. And speaking of numbers, let's crunch the numbers with the return of Shambookie. We're talking about our college basketball best bets of the weekend. Trey, I'll start with you. You're going to the Big 12. Iowa State. Take us through your pick.
A lot of big games this week. Big 12, best conference in men's college basketball. We're going to go there. We're going to look at Iowa State -2.5 against Kansas. Favorites at home. Kansas ranked in the top 10. Iowa State ranked at 23, but coming off 2 really big wins against TCU and Kansas State. I like the way they're playing. They have one of the most under-the-radar freshmen in the country in Milan Monsilovic, averaging almost 14 points per game. Hit a huge 3 against TCU last weekend. I really like where this Iowa State team is at. And for Kansas, they lost to UCF last week, and they beat a decent Cincinnati team by 4 in Allen Fieldhouse. I like Iowa State at home. I think they're going to get it done as home favorites.
KU ranks 7 in the country. Cyclones 23rd. Should be a great matchup there in Ames, as will be the one in Indianapolis. And Jimmy, you're rolling with the dogs.
Yes, sir. I'm taking it to the Big East.
Yes.
I know not everyone's favorite Power 6, but I like Butler against Villanova. This is a Villanova team that's almost in the gutter. They've lost 3 in a row, 4 out of 5. Their only win coming against a bad DePaul team. They're struggling, and they're going to Butler. This is a Butler team who averages 80 points per game on the season, 15 assists. They can get guys open, they can score the ball, and I think they come out with the win.
All right, there are your picks. Iowa State, Butler. Tail them if you like. You'll probably win. For Jimmy Collins and Trey Cotey, I'm Tyler Reidy. Thanks so much for tuning in on this Friday afternoon for Shamrock Sports. Men's basketball at 12 p.m. tomorrow, women's basketball at 8. Should be a great weekend of Notre Dame sports here in South Bend. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in today for Shamrock Sports.